Take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You made your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
Today we are diving into a topic that sits at the very heart of patient sovereignty and informed consent. For most people, healthcare feels like something you simply accept. You're told what the policy is, you're given limited options, and in the middle of a health crisis, you may feel like you have no power to say otherwise. But the truth is this: your body is not a bureaucracy. You have the right to decide what goes into it, whether that's food, medicine, or even blood. Nowhere does this conversation get more real than when families are faced with the need for transfusions. For some, the idea of receiving random, unvetted blood raises deep concerns, and rightly so. Whether it's because of health risks, personal convictions, or simply a desire for full control, patients deserve to have those choices respected. Yet too often, hospitals push back, saying, "That's not our policy," or "We don't do that here." And in those moments, fear and confusion can take over. And that's exactly where advocacy steps in and why partnerships matter. This episode isn't about theory. It's about real solutions, real wins, and real families who walked into the hospital prepared, empowered, and supported. We'll break down how our collaboration is changing the game, why planning ahead matters, and how you can protect your sovereignty in the very moments it matters most. So stay with us over this next hour, because what you're about to hear could mean the difference between fear and confidence the next time you or a loved one face this broken healthcare system. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to us directly by visiting our website at nursesoutloud.com. We would love to hear from you. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. If you're new here, this is where we have the conversations too many people are afraid to have. So today's episode is special. We are spotlighting our Remnant Healthcare and Pure Blood Registry partnership, what it is, why it matters, and how exactly our advocacy services have helped our members navigate hospitals, line up safe, directed blood options, and preserve patient sovereignty when the system says no. Your blood, your body, your choice. We're talking directed donations, informed consent, and what to do when a hospital says, "That's not our policy." So today I am joined by Pure Blood Registry founder Gil Levy and Remnant Healthcare's Director of Operations, Krista O'Day, to unpack how our partnership is delivering real-world wins for patients and families who refuse to be steamrolled. Gil, Krista, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Hi, Kim. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you both back. Gil, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Good to be back.
Absolutely. It's very good to have you back. So Krista, I guess we'll start with you here. You have been Director of Operations at Remnant. What are we going on now? 3 years?
Yes, 3 years live, just about. Yep.
It's been crazy to think that it's already been 3 years, but we are here and we're making a difference. But we have been partnered with Pure Blood Registry for quite some time now. I know I want to get a little bit of background from Gil and kind of, he's been on the show before. Gil, I know that you've joined us before, but let's unpack this a little bit, if you would, for maybe listeners that aren't familiar with your organization. Let's set the stage. So several years ago, you identified a problem And it's one that not enough people are speaking about. The fact that we have completely tainted our blood supply in this country. And your solution to this dilemma was Pure Blood Registry. So if you want to just take a few moments to just kind of walk us through how all of this began for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to put it out there, I am no medical professional, but I am an entrepreneur, and I start businesses where I see that there is a need and a problem for issues in our community and in the world. And so one of the businesses that I saw come to light was something that really affected my family. And when my daughter was born in 22, I fairly quickly realized that, if she would need a blood transfusion, there was just no way that we could rely on the general blood supply. And so this really all stemmed from her mother that needed to have a C-section at the hospital. So fairly quickly, I put up a few billboards around town, and I had a pretty rush marketing campaign to giving the first 1,800 members a free lifetime membership just to make sure that my daughter could have a few matching blood donors in the area. And we got that and we filled up our quota. And then it really turned into a full-fledged business, which started taking 10, 20, 30, 40 hours of my time. And so then I really focused on growing that business. And then since then, I've learned a lot. And I mean, we can take it from the lessons from the 1980s, where the HIV/AIDS crisis revealed serious failures in the US blood supply system, in Europe, in Australia, where contaminated blood transfusions infected thousands, which just highlights the dangers of putting blind trust in centralized medical authorities. So that's really why I started this platform as just a little pet project to take care of my family. And then we had an influx of expectant mothers, and cancer patients, and now turbo cancer patients. And we've been able to help so many people now on a daily and weekly basis. And it's just been amazing to see how our medical freedom community comes together when one of our own is at risk and is in need of a safe blood transfusion. So it's been a wonderful educational learning trip and experience, and I can't wait to see where this leads us, because it's really about educating the masses, including the medical professionals, the nurses, the phlebotomists, the doctors, the surgeons, the ER teams, because at the end of the day, we are also working within the system, and educating them as to what has happened in the past and what the majority of people want, which is really informed consent and the choice to choose what goes into their body.
And I think that's a good point, that we really do need to educate these healthcare professionals, because so many of them have kind of been running on autopilot for so long. They have these protocols in place that have been in place for years. And, nobody was really asking for unvaccinated blood or directed donation or any of those things. But when this concern came up, when people started to become concerned about the unvaccinated blood, they started getting an influx of more people asking for directed donations, and they almost don't know what to do or even how to answer the question, because it goes outside their lines, and if they didn't have the benefit of a protocol in front of them, sadly, most of them wouldn't know what to do. So let's take it back a little bit. So we partnered. I want to say it's been 2 years now, hasn't it, since we've gotten together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Over 2 years now.
I can't believe how
Mm-hmm.
quickly time is going by. Krista, talk about that, how we ended up getting connected with Gil and Pure Blood Registry and what that looked like.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Gil definitely reached out to us for sure and introduced himself and what he was doing. And we were immediately on board. And of course, people were coming through to us, right? Because Gil's platform was allowing people to find the donors and have access to them. But of course, oftentimes they kind of ran into trouble when they got to the hospital or had to speak to their doctor. And as Gil mentioned before, educating the hospital staff, when someone is ill and not feeling well, the last thing that they want to do is now educate
Right.
doctors, nurses, and hematologists on the ability of obtaining a directed donation. So, that's when these people would reach out to us and Gil would kind of send them our way so that we could then perform that advocacy part for them. So we would do the work of going back and forth with their physician, right? Going back and forth with the blood banks, even contacting the donors for them so that everything was lined up and done seamlessly and with no effort on the client's part, especially those who were extremely ill, right? Because we've seen the gamut of very ill patients requiring blood for transfusions, and then all the way through to people who have scheduled surgeries that want to just have blood from a trusted source that they can have on standby for just in case. So we've done everything from kind of both extremes really and everything in the middle.
Yes, we really have. We've had, some that, were just kind of asking the question, well, just in case, or like, as you mentioned, for scheduled surgeries. But we've also had people that have come to us in crisis and what we find is that when you are in a situation where you're having a medical emergency and you're in a situation where they're saying, okay, you're going to need a blood transfusion, a lot of times, time is of the essence. And I cannot say this, I speak on this all the time. Have an advocacy plan in place. Do not wait for the emergency to arise. Have a plan in place. Because so much of the time is really just doing the intake and the triage and all of that, getting all of their information. And these are all things that if we had had that information, we would be, prepared and ready to go to bat for our clients almost immediately. And again, time is of the essence in these types of situations. So I can't hammer that point home enough. Would you both agree with that? Have the advocacy plan in place before that emergency arises?
Oh
I
yeah.
would certainly agree with that because we've seen it time and time again through all our cases that whether it's nefariously done or not, or just plain ignorance or incompetence, still haven't figured it out, but I'm assuming it's a little bit of each, um, that we have seen medical teams, hospitals, executives, phlebotomists, C-level employees at the blood centers. It seems to me that it's a concerted effort to delay, deceive, uh,
Yes.
and push out misinformation to our patients that are just ignorant of what their rights are as patients and their medical freedoms. So I, ever since I became aware of the of the whole sick care system, and I have told so many people that the number one mistake I believe that patients make is that they don't have and they don't hire patient advocates from the get-go because it's really about being proactive and not just only in the blood and safe blood transfusion space, but for many other diagnoses is if you have unbiased opinion from the get-go and having a nurse practitioner or medical professional on your side to push back and to give unbiased second opinions and to really navigate the whole sick care system so you're setting yourself up for success, that is really the key to getting better and not being a patient within that system.
It really truly is. And I think many people think, especially if they're hospitalized, they're like, oh, well, the hospital offers patient advocates. Well, those are not really, those are paycheck employees of the hospital. And so the bottom line is that is where their loyalty is going to lie. At the end of the day, they are not going to push too hard for the rights of the patient. I hate to say that, but that has been my experience as I've worked in many hospitals over many years. They're really just there to kind of sugarcoat the hospital policies and make sure that the patients comply with them, which is quite unfortunate. But to your point, Gil, there are so many other issues other than just blood donation. For example, we talk a lot about cancer. When patients get cancer diagnoses, we know that the standard of care in this country is chemo, radiation, and surgery. And coming soon, mRNA cancer vaccines, but that's a whole other episode that we'll have to do coming
Yeah.
soon. But we know that that's the standard of care. That's going to be the only options they're going to give you. Where if you had an advocate in place, a well-educated advocate that could explore your different options and maybe ask the questions you wouldn't think to ask, because when you get a diagnosis like that, you are having psychological paralysis. You are frightened, and rightly so. I'm sure any of us, even those of us who are awake and aware in the face of a diagnosis like that, would face that type of paralysis of not knowing what to ask, what to say, what to do. And that's where having an advocate is so, so important, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely, Kim. If I have to say too, I think, our team of nurses has a combined experience of centuries.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you're getting nurses who have been a part of the system, have worked deeply in the system, and now work outside of the system, but they know the system very well. They know the language that is used, they know the common tactics that are used in order to maybe, for lack of a better word, sort of bully patients into doing what, the hospital protocol says to do, or that specific doctor wants done. So having someone who has that knowledge and ability to navigate and also break down information, right? Because sometimes, especially in situations of illness, even a family member, right? This is a very emotional time, right?
Correct.
So our emotions are taking over, right? So when we're hearing information, that information isn't really landing, right? And then of course then you have people who may use kind of hospital slang or talk or things, and a lot of time people are sitting there saying, what is going on? What did they say? Oh, what did the doctor say? I have no idea, right? That's usually the response that we get. Like, I don't even know. I don't know. So when you have an advocate there with you who is like in not an emotional state, right? A completely somebody who's outside of that emotional realm, but a paid advocate that you paid for. We do not work for the hospital, we work for that person. So the goal of that patient is the goal that we fight for. And we can break information down. And oftentimes we're the ones that are educating the hospital staff,
Oh,
right? We are the
more
ones.
often than not, we are
Yes.
educating them. Like I said, they're not used to people asking questions, and they're not prepared to give answers because they're not asked. But I can speak to that through my personal experience. A couple of years ago, I had to advocate for my mother who was in the hospital, and I can speak to the fact that I think I'm a very good advocate. But when it was my mother, and when they were pushing back so hard, I was in that heightened emotional state. And I mean, things were about to get very, very ugly. And I thought I was probably gonna have to call Christopher Bale. So, you really have to find somebody that can remove, that layer of emotion out of it and
Yeah.
speak very rationally and very frankly with these doctors, nurses, and care teams. And again, like Krista mentioned, we know how to navigate this system. Most of us have been in it for decades,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
nothing new to us to have these
Yeah.
conversations. And I'm an ICU nurse, so we're not afraid to ask or push back against any doctor. I can tell you that.
Right. And Kim, and that's the thing, right? A lot of people, and this is just sort of how we've been socialized, really, right? Is that somebody comes in a white coat in a hospital and it's like, listen to what they say and just do what they say, right?
Right.
And there's, of course, that other component of fear, right? When you're worried about a health diagnosis or something is going wrong, right? There's that level of fear where you're like, okay, yes, just do whatever, do whatever. And you don't even know really what you're agreeing to,
Yeah,
and to
exactly.
have an advocate right there to talk to it and to not feel weird or uncomfortable or confrontational, to talk to a doctor or a nurse and say, hey, there's another way. Why don't we try this way? And then of course, also calm down that fear in our clients. I think that's another huge thing because fear
Oh,
is a
yeah.
driving force, right? And I feel like the medical system counts on that. They count on fear
Mhm.
to kind of get you to do what they want to do. So when you have someone who's like, hey, this is actually not an emergency, right? Like right
Yes,
now, like right in this moment, this is not a life threatening event. We have time. Let's talk about it, right? So that
absolutely.
you're not agreeing to something off the cuff or just not knowing what's going on, right? And then once that fear gets kind of calmed down, right? Now you're dealing with a whole nother, you're going in there empowered.
Yes. And I remember that, 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, I was actually advocating for one of our clients for a directed donation. And this hospital was pushing for a transfusion with the patient had a hemoglobin of 11. Like, can I tell you how this is unheard of? We don't even consider transfusion until I think it's under 7. We don't even start talking about it. So, I mean, right now, my hemoglobin's probably 10 because I'm anemic myself. But, nobody's talking about transfusion. So if you have them already starting to talk about transfusions of the hemoglobin of 11. And she was not just like preparing for, she wanted to actually do a transfusion. I had never,
Wow.
ever heard of this in all my years in the ICU. And most
Yeah.
every doctor that I spoke with agreed. So these are things that patients aren't going to know or understand. Where if you have that well educated, and again, who's not afraid to push back, you may have a nurse is supposed to be your advocate, whether that's your nurse in the hospital or wherever. However, a lot of times they can be timid and they can be intimidated by doctors and afraid to question orders, afraid to push back. We have a lot of
Yes.
younger nurses. So it's important to make sure you're getting out of the hierarchy of that system. We are completely independent. We don't answer to any of those people. Answer
Absolutely.
to
And
our
also,
clients.
Kim, too, to put also in, in that whole realm of advocacy, in the same time, we're able to educate our clients who are in hospital on ways like while they are waiting for their directed donation, right? Which in some places, and Gil can attest to this, can take 3 days, depending on the blood bank. I know American Red Cross changed a lot of things, so they kind of prolong the process. But in that time frame, how can we get your hemoglobin up naturally,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Let's start talking about that. So maybe you may not even need that transfusion, right? So aside from just being advocates, we will then educate you into how you can build up your own blood supply naturally with either food, supplements in the interim, so that hopefully, right, we may get to a point 3 days down the line where you may not need a transfusion, right? Because ultimately that is always the goal,
Right.
right? Like, I mean,
Right.
every, a transfusion comes with risk. I mean, this is a
Of course. It's a
invasive
foreign body.
procedure, right? Yeah,
Yes. And you're putting
totally.
foreign protein into your body. So, yeah, there's going to be a risk.
Yeah.
Regardless of it's vaccinated, unvaccinated, there's always a risk with the blood transfusion. And those are well known. So, I like to keep the risks very minimal. So,
Absolutely, right?
and like I tell people, and we can kind of touch on this a little bit. We did have, I like to, this is my favorite bragging point, and I don't like to brag, but we do have a 100% success rate in getting people who come to us for clean, unvaccinated blood. We've got 100% not sex rate, success rate. Oh, I love the radio. Success rate in advocating for these clients. So I'm really proud of that fact. And I'm really proud of our incredible
Absolutely.
team, and which includes Gil and
Yes.
yourself, Kristen, all of our amazing nurses that we have been able to deliver when people have needed us the most. But what's important too is that we are always giving informed consent. Now, we can speak a little bit. We had a patient that came to us in a very dire situation.
Mhm.
And when we gave her all of the information and we gave her autonomy to make her own decision. Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So this client came to us very ill. Her hemoglobin was extremely low. Her husband was caring for her at home. They were very educated, informed people. and not filled with fear, right? And they wanted help in getting a directed donation, an unvaccinated one. So Gil was heavily involved in this, of course. And, just talking to these people, right? They were older, like I said, very well educated and informed. And I just, I like to tell people everything, all the information, right? I don't like to withhold information. Here is everything, right? You can choose to wait, right? Because we have a few days before the donation could even be processed and the donors, right? So when you're very ill, right, there is a potential, right, of becoming so ill that you can go into respiratory arrest, cardiac arrest, et cetera, because of such a low hemoglobin count, right? So I just told the risks to them. I described them. I told our clients what to look out for. Like, hey, if you start seeing her become even more restless, lethargic, loss of consciousness, right? Gasping, shortness of breath, et cetera, things like that. We have to then discuss, like, is it worth it to wait for this direct donation to come in? Or like, just the mindset of life over limb, like get her the blood that she needs. And then we can assist in detoxification and helping her rebuild from that. Which she did. She ended up going to the hospital over that weekend because her condition did decline. However, after receiving blood and doing well, she came through us as a client. We assisted her in detoxification, and she has been a client of ours now, being seen by one of our amazing nurses who has gotten her to a point where she was able to go on a hike
Amazing.
for hours that she hadn't been able to do for decades, right? And she's been living with chronic anemia for the majority of her life. So, what an amazing feat that is. So, yeah, I feel like allow people to make the decisions that they want to make and support them in that, right? That's what we stand for, right, Kim? Like, we're not forcing anyone to do anything. Like, here's the information. You get to make a decision for yourself, and we will support you wholeheartedly in that
Absolutely.
decision.
Absolutely. I support informed consent. I would say,
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody came to me and told me that they wanted to get vaccinated, I would make sure that they had all of the information. I would never administer it, but I
Right.
would support their decision if they made an informed one. That's not for me to decide. That's for them. And as long as I made sure that I've provided all the information, education, and I can clearly say that we obviously don't have safety studies and what we've seen and all of the things. If they come to that determination that they want that vaccine, well, then I will support them in that decision for themselves, and then I will hope and pray that they come to us for detox.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
that's part of where, I go by 6 key points when I educate our member patients about the importance of having a patient advocate. And it's exactly that, Krista, is two of those key points is one is moral support, that they're going to have someone by their side, which makes it easier for them to stand firm against the hospital pressure, especially when time-sensitive decisions are involved. And then also that your patient advocates give them the empowerment, and ultimately that one of your advocates helps them, not the hospital, control your care. And it's really about keeping the focus on safety and personal choice. So that's really important, because what we've learned over the past few years is that there's somehow this magic number that when someone's hemoglobin reaches 7, well, now it's life and death. And now the patient, if you're listening to the medical staff at the hospital, well, they're going to do whatever they can to get that patient to make that decision to get a blood transfusion. And that is really not the case. And not that I give our member patients medical advice, but I say, look, we have plenty of patients that are walking around with hemoglobin levels in the 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, just because they're deathly scared of getting a blood transfusion from the general blood supply, because there is inherent risk in that. And we've heard countless stories of patients getting extremely sick or their loved ones dying merely hours after getting blood from the general blood supply, where I tell them exactly what you said, Krista, where if you're starting to feel lethargic, if you're not able to take a few steps, if you're short of breath, on and on and on, then maybe at that point you can make that hard decision if you want to take that risk. But until you get to that point, just a number on a chart shouldn't dictate your decision moving forward.
That's exactly right, Gil.
Right.
And that's the problem, is that we are paying too much attention to numbers on reference ranges, or like the same thing with monitors. When we always tell the nurses, don't nurse the monitor, nurse the patient. What is your patient doing? Is your patient presenting with any type of symptoms, or do they look perfectly normal? All of these things matter, and they need to be taken into consideration. So you're 100% right to definitely to point that out, is that we cannot just go by. Plus, we know that everybody is different. Everybody's their biomarkers are different. Do they make differentiations between males, between females, and ages? In are you a woman that's menstruating? Do they make any type of differentiation in the levels, or is it just a hard 7 across the board?
And
Right.
this goes along with our entire Western society and what we've seen, especially with AI being ushered in and the way systems are put in place, whether it's legislators, local, statewide, federal level, that they're really doing their best to remove humanity away from anything. We can see this in the medical space. We can see this in policing. We can see this in so many different industries, that especially when it comes to healthcare, we have to treat each other as humans and not as numbers, whether it's on your tag, on your wrist, or on the chart.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about, bringing humanity back into the healing profession. We are up against a break, but we will be back in just a moment. America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser, anywhere in the world. We have the best in-class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa, 24/7 Great Talk Radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcast, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including an incredible line of products from Chemical Free Body. Unlike the majority of supplements you'll find on the market today, with Chemical Free Body, you won't have to worry about harmful ingredients, binders, fillers, or flow agents. Their ultra-safe breakthrough nanosilver technology destroys pathogens, balances the microbiome, and boosts immunity. All of these products are proudly made in the USA and are backed by an unheard of double your money back guarantee. I've made a twice daily Green 85 drink part of my routine, which has led to a decrease in belly bloat and an increase in my energy throughout the day. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 20% off the Healthy Gut Bundle. I'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Feeling off lately? Bloated, brain fog, low energy? It could be parasites. These silent invaders that weaken your gut, immune system, and mental clarity. That's why Dr. Peter McCullough and the doctors at the Wellness Company formulated ivermectin and mebendazole cleanse, a medical-grade solution designed to help eliminate parasites and restore balance. No gimmicks, just real medicine trusted by top doctors. Go to twc.health/outloud and use code OUTLOUD for 20% off your first order. Take control of your health today.
During COVID, we got educated on the power of natural virus protection and immune boosting using vitamins A, C, D, zinc, and quercetin. The problem? Getting them at the right dosage from truly natural sources that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Enter the Daily V-Stack. Using breakthrough cellular absorption technology, we put those vitamins together and supercharge them with a complete multi-mineral complex. The Daily V-Stack is basically an oral IV of 6 products, all in one at an affordable price. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/outloud today. Get the Daily V-Stack, protect yourself, boost your immune system, and save 20% on your first order.
You wouldn't go a day without brushing your teeth or washing your hands. What about washing your nose? I mean, your nose does filter the air you breathe, air loaded with bacteria, viruses, and irritants. Make nasal hygiene part of your routine with Xlear. No messy bottles to fill, no drowning sensation. Xlear is a natural drug-free saline with the added benefit of xylitol, which blocks bacterial and viral adhesion. Available in stores and online at xlear.com. That is XLEAR.com.
Have you been looking for a healthy snack for on the go, but all the energy and protein bars are just too sweet and full of sugar, preservatives, and mystery ingredients? Well, not all energy bars are soft and sugary. Bear Bars are a crunchy, savory bar made from just 6 simple, natural ingredients. Made with veggies, nuts, and seeds, Bear Bars are plant-based, organic, gluten-free, contain 6 grams of protein, and are low-temp dried for a unique crunch. To learn more, just visit bearbar.com/outloud and get the exclusive discount just for America Out Loud listeners. That's BEARBAR.com/outloud.
A man's country is not a certain area of land, of mountains, rivers, and woods, but it is a principle, and patriotism is loyal to that principle. I'm happy to report that American patriotism flows freely once again. AmericaOutloud.news is that place to awaken your heart, soul, and mind to the out loud truth.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We all must do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with the founder of Pure Blood Registry, Gil Levy, and Krista O'Day, our Director of Operations over at Remnant Healthcare. Let's jump right back in. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm really enjoying this conversation so far.
Same, Kim. I think just advocacy in general is something that's so important, right?
It really
just
is. And it's something I know that
everyone.
we're all passionate about. Like every one of us here today have a real passion for advocacy and for patients' rights and sovereignty in general.
Absolutely. And just allowing people the ability to remember that it is really them who gets to make the final decision. It is them who gets to make the choice. And having, as Gil mentioned before, which I love, Gil, like just having that moral support, someone standing behind you, just telling you, you're on the right track, or, hey, let's take a look at this, or what about this? Or even just trusting in the human body, right? Mm-hmm. With a hemoglobin of 7. Oh my gosh. How about we wait a few hours because the body will regenerate itself? How about we just take a
do
breath?
The little wait and see. I mean, we're monitoring. They're obviously being monitored. So, and again, that's all the patient's choice. They can know the risks and they have the authority over anyone to make that decision. But I will say, as far as advocacy, and I can't stress this enough, how important it is to have an advocate in place because of the absurdities that we're seeing. I don't know if you've listened to my most recent episode. I had a father on, his name is Izzy Rivera, and he has 5 children. He and his wife had refused the vitamin K shot at their child's birth, which everything was fine. The baby was perfectly healthy. They went home. Baby's now 7 months old. They go in for their child visits. And the doctor starts pushing for the 7-month-old child to have a vitamin K shot. The 7-month-old child to have a vitamin K shot. There's no need for a vitamin K shot at that point, right?
The whole
no need. It's absolutely absurd.
Completely gone.
Perfectly healthy, and it's not indicated. None of that. So the father says no, very politely, very nicely. He refuses. This doctor, this is out in the state of Massachusetts, which I'm ashamed to say is my home state at this point. This doctor filed a 51A on this father, on these parents. They kidnapped, they came and DCF, stole this child, ripped all 5 children from their home. All 5 children, put them into state custody. They were forced vaccinated without their parents' consent while they were in state custody.
Oh my God.
It gets worse. So these are all things that you think you're doing the right thing by taking your child to the pediatrician. And one simple thing, like I didn't want to get my 7-month-old child, this vitamin K shot that he didn't need, turns into them taking the children. This has been going on for, I believe, over a year now. And the they moved to Texas. They took the children and they left and they went to Texas, and they threw them in jail. They
Wow.
threw them in jail for kidnapping their own
Their own
children. So when I say to you out
children.
there, have an
Mm,
advocacy plan in place, because this
yes.
family never expected this. And if it can
No.
happen to them, it can happen to any one of us at any time. Now, whether you use our organization
Absolutely.
or another, there are others out there. That part is totally up to you. I hope you use us because I think we're great. But um, have a plan in place, no matter who you choose to use. Have a plan in place.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Kim, I'm so glad that you brought up pediatrics, because that is something also that we've been advocating for infants who have been screened, let's say even genetic screening at the hospital, and something was found, and these physicians want to run the gamut on these babies. I'm
Yeah.
talking 6 week old, 4 week old babies. And I have to say, this family did contact us and had our pediatric nurse practitioner as their advocate. And I'll tell you, Kim, and I know we can all on this call attest to the fact that doctors and other healthcare providers come with a different tone
Yes.
when there's a nurse on the other end of the line,
Yeah.
because they know that some of the games or the tactics that they use to coerce and fear monger
Mm.
are not able to get by
That's correct.
someone
Yeah.
who is of the same stature, the same education, and who has worked within that system. So I always say, before families go in, especially with young children, infants, to 110% get a nurse advocate on your side before, because we have gone into
Yes.
people's remotely on a Zoom call, into doctor's appointments, have written letters, have discussed, right? We have gone to court on some occasions,
Yes.
right, Kim?
Yep.
We have shown up
We
in
have.
court for our clients and their families. So that is something I cannot stress enough. Like, when you have someone there, the likelihood of them going this route, calling CPS or things like that, is not as high as if you're going at it alone, because you get steamrolled, right? And in addition to that, even let's talk about pregnancy, right, Gil? We've had so many women, pregnant women, come to us for getting blood, for scheduled C-sections, or even ROGAM, right? Which a lot of people don't know. It is a blood product.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yep.
And,
Same thing with
trying to,
albumin. We went
yes,
through that
mm-hmm,
situation with little Autumn because
yes,
they never explained to the
right.
mother. You want to talk about informed consent? They never
Mm-hmm.
explained to the mother that that was a human blood product.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that was
they
unfortunate.
don't, right. They don't even bother, you know? And that's the thing. It's, if you want to be educated, have someone who's on your side and have your best interests in mind instead of a system.
Right.
Right. And here we are once again, even for ROGAM. And I love, and I hope, Kim, to one day, my goal is, like, I'm writing a little something up that maybe we can do a show on it on our own. But, I always encourage moms, like, check out, Dr. Sarah Wickham's book, Anti-D, ROGAM, and RH Factor, just to educate yourself, because even that, right, is draped in a lot of misinformation, and does not, a lot of things have been, oh gosh, how could I even say it? Don't always believe what people tell you, and really do your research.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. You have to do your own research. And I don't even want anybody taking my word for anything. We're going to give you all the information and tools. Please do your own research as
Yes.
well. And, we're not here to sway you one way or the other. We just want you to make sure that you're informed. I do want to
Okay.
touch a little bit on, some of the challenges that we've seen coming up in the last, particularly the last probably year and a half. I feel like the American Red Cross has been pushing back because, again, directed donations are not anything new. These have been
Mm-hmm.
going on for forever, right? These are not a new thing. It's probably more, people are asking for them more because there's more of a concern after,
Mm-hmm.
a third of the country or the world, whatever, has been vaccinated, and people have really legitimate concerns about that blood being tainted. But so with the increase in the uptick of people asking for this blood, we see more pushback, right? Particularly from the American Red Cross. Can you speak a little bit to what the American Red Cross came out about year and a half ago, and they put some certain protocols into place that made it even more difficult and challenging for people looking for directed donations?
Yeah, so about I would say around the 2 year mark from today, the ARC put in a few protocols and procedures, just complete nonsensical uh, procedures. That one, they are requiring doctors that are already overwhelmed with their patient counts, um, and many times they are just refusing to call every potential direct donor and go over a risk assessment form with them, which pretty much entails going over some bullet points, trying to convince them that a direct donation is not going to be safer for the patient in need. And then, on top of that, uh, the potential donor would need to have on hand proof of their blood type, and they'll have to send it in to the doctor. And then once those two steps are done, then the doctor would package it all together with the special collections form, which is what the ARC calls it. And then it would be sent over to the regional director of the ARC for that particular region. If people know, the ARC all around the country has X amount of regions, and one regional director overlooks all of them, and also has the power to deny a direct donation for any reason that they come up with. So this entire process, we've seen take upwards of 4 weeks, and I would say on average 2 to 3 weeks. Where in contrast to that, and here in Florida, let's say, we use OneBlood for most of our direct donations, and their turnaround time to process the blood would be 2 to 3 days.
Because
So
it is the same process, isn't that correct? It's the same process whether you direct a donation or you get it from the general supply. All of the blood donated goes through the exact same testing procedures.
exactly. And furthermore, to put it in layman's terms, how absolutely ridiculous this is, which is you can also see these are paid actors.
Mhm.
And when Krista and I were speaking on the Senate floor in a committee hearing for Wyoming to pass a bill up there, uh, a medical director from the ARC uh, gave his 2 cents, and also a medical director or some scientist from Vitalant also gave his 2 cents, and they were saying that it's just more dangerous to get a direct donation rather than the general blood supply.
Absurd.
Well, one, Kimberly, you just said it. It goes through the exact same testing procedure. And number two, if we just think about it, wouldn't you prefer to get a blood donation from a friend or family member that you
Absolutely.
know lives a healthy lifestyle, is not an alcoholic, is not a drug addict, doesn't
Mhm.
have unsafe sex, yada, 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 that you have a personal relationship with, rather than just getting it from the the
Oh,
general
one
supply that you
one
have
hundred
access
percent. And that even pre-COVID vaccine, that would have made me more comfortable.
to.
I mean, it really had nothing to do that's always going to be the preference. If you can have a directed donation, then that would be my preference every time. So why do you think so much pushback? Do you think the pushback is because they are afraid that if so many people start asking for the unvaccinated blood, people are going to the people who may not be awake and aware are going to start to think, oh, there's a problem here? Or is there some type of financial loss that they are suffering by doing? I don't know that, so that's a legitimate question. I don't know the answer. Is there some type of financial loss if they don't pull from the general blood supply?
I believe there is a financial loss, all down the chain of custody with these donations. Now, I don't know what the upsell percentage is coming from a volunteer. going into a blood center and then getting shipped to a hospital for use. But it's also known that the majority, and I will say the majority, which means 51% plus, I've heard it's upwards of 60%, that volunteer blood donations in this country are actually shipped internationally.
Really? That's
So
interesting.
it's a sick practice. It's certainly a for-profit practice. And what I did early on was actually look at the financials of the American Red Cross. Um, and let me tell you that this is certainly not a nonprofit business.
Yeah.
They are making tens of millions of dollars in bonuses annually.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to have you come back on just to kind of unpack that because I mean, my experience in the healthcare industry for as many decades as I've been in here now, I don't want to talk about how many decades, but my experience is that there's always some type of financial motivation. Like the only time they take such a hard line position on anything is if it's affecting their bottom line. Otherwise, I don't think they would, care one way or the other. So clearly there's a bottom line that's being affected. You got to follow that money trail. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, but I can add it to my to-do list. Gil, maybe you and I and Krista, we can kind of get together and and we can do a part two, part three of the American Red Cross and exposing because there's some nefarious things going on over there. I'm sure of that.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would think there is some truth to it because some certain blood centers, if a direct donation doesn't get used, it is actually their procedure to dispose of it. And others actually, if it doesn't get used within X amount of days and prior to the degradation of the blood donation, then they would actually uh, put it into the pool of the general supply in hopes of having it used. So, uh, just so yes, I would assume that there is some truth, that there is some financial benefit of getting a volunteer rather than a direct donation.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're really going to have to dig into
Very
that,
interesting.
go down
Yeah.
that rabbit hole here soon. So yeah, we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot. We've got just a couple of minutes left, but I really wanted to talk about. We've talked about the people that we have advocated for, the many clients that we've advocated for of yours, Gil. Just curious your perception on the services that we're providing at Remnant to your members, because these are members that you of your organization that you're entrusting to us, and I just would love any feedback that you have for us.
I mean, there's really not any feedback because you guys are absolutely doing an amazing job in successfully providing the care and advocacy service to our patients. I mean, look, at the end of the day, medical freedom, it isn't just a lofty idea. It's something that plays out in real time, right at the patient's bedside. And this is where patient advocacy becomes absolutely critical. When somebody enters a hospital, they're often overwhelmed. Maybe they're in pain, maybe they're under medication, maybe they just don't have the bandwidth to fight for their rights in that moment. And that's where a remnant healthcare advocate steps in. And an advocate makes sure that their voice is not only heard, but respected. I mean, and think about it. Medical institutions are built on standard protocols.
Yeah.
And sometimes those protocols don't line up with an individual's wishes or values. And without someone pushing back, it's easy for patients to be swept along with what's convenient for the system. Advocacy provides a check, a balance. It reminds the system that the patient, not the institution, is at the center of care. And advocacy isn't about saying no to doctors. It's about ensuring that informed consent is real. It means you get all the information, all the risks, and all the alternatives before you agree to anything. That's not confrontation, that's accountability. And in moments when patients are most vulnerable, too sick, too stressed, or too sedated to make decisions, advocates safeguard their freedoms. They make sure their personal choice doesn't get lost in the shuffle of bureaucracy or rush decision making. So at the end of the day, medical freedom is only as strong as the advocacy behind it. It's not just a principle, it's a practice. And if we want true autonomy in healthcare, we have to normalize the role of patient advocates as a standard, not an exception.
Absolutely. That was beautifully said, Gil. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And thank you so much for, as I said earlier, entrusting your clients with our nurses. I am been just so blessed. I know Krista feels the same, blessed with this partnership with Pure Blood Registry, and we look forward to collaborating with you for years to come. Krista, any final words?
My gosh, I think Gil, that was so beautifully said. I can't even think of anything else to say after that. That was
Yeah, truly.
exceptional. Yeah.
You stole our thunder, Krista. It's okay.
Well, you know
Fine.
what?
It's fine.
I'm passionate about it, and when
Totally.
you
Love
speak
it.
truth and you live this day by day, and with our partnership, we have made miracles, and it's absolutely
Yeah.
amazing to be a part of
Amen,
it.
Gil.
And we can't thank you. And I'll speak on behalf of our thousands of members. We cannot thank you guys enough for being available, and with your tentacles that you guys can reach out to, and what you've been able to do for our patients in the last minutes, hours, days of them needing somebody before giving up has been just an honor to witness. And I can only hope that everybody is aware that this type of unbiased care is available to them. And I could only wish that this becomes normalized, to have a patient advocate, a phone call away and saved in your cell phone.
Amen.
Amazing.
Thank you so
Amen
much,
is
Gil.
right, Gil. Yeah.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Gil. I can't believe we're out of time, but to be continued. We will have another conversation. I am sure of that.
Yes. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Thanks, ladies. Have a wonderful evening.
You too, Gil.
That is all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, with a different nurse host daily. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and these courageous nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you, because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. You can find me here every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless. Remember, we are in a war for truth. We are putting out a bounty on the real misinformation and exposing the purveyors of propaganda. No topic is off limits as we shine our lights and expose the darkness.